I'm Danica Tormohlen reporting for Trade Show News Network, and I'm joined by Jill Birkett, who is VP Market Leader for Questex Travel. Hi, Jill.
Thank you for inviting me to be with you today, Danica.
I really wanted to talk to you. We got a release about your announcement on the fact that Questex Travel Group had unveiled a strategic rebrand amid unprecedented travel industry surge. So I really wanted to talk to you further about it and get some insights into it for the trade show industry.
Wonderful. Happy to be here with you. We're excited about it.
So the rebrand comes during a period of significant growth in the travel industry. How specifically did you design this unified vision to capitalize on the projected 11.7 trillion contribution to the global economy?
I think one of the things that we tried to do here was align our brands to better take advantage of that growing economy. Those numbers have gone anywhere from 7 to 10, 11% a year in terms of growth ever since the end of the pandemic. And expectations from pretty much all sources continue to suggest that will grow even further down the line. And we have had many, I would say, disparate products across the travel and meetings industry. And so we thought, why not take an opportunity to realign when we hit this milestone, this 20-year anniversary of our publication, Luxury Travel Advisor. That is really what instigated the conversation. And then we took it to, I guess I would call it a bigger level when we said, let's go even beyond just a new, clean, fresh look for Luxury Travel Advisor. And let's expand it to also provide some unity across all of our other brands too.
So that means putting together all of the different pieces of your travel platforms, media brands, and events.
Exactly.
For our audience in particular, talk a little bit about the event side of it.
So for the event side of it, we've had individual products such as our Luxury Travel Advisor Ultra Summit, which focuses on that luxury travel advisor and connecting them with the players across the universe in the luxury space. But we also host GMITE, which is focused on global meetings and incentive travel across. It's held within the United States, but it's a global event. And that has what I would almost call a subsidiary event, CMITE, which is Caribbean and Mexico meeting and incentive travel event. And those have been the key live events that we have been running in the more recent years. We actually are looking at some expansion next year, which I can't get completely into at this point, but we did feel it was important to bring them together more cohesively. Even GMITE and CMITE, if you actually looked at those brands and how they were presented 3 months ago, with basically the color and the look, the fonts, everything, it wasn't really cohesive and unified. So we decided this was a chance to take the opportunity to bring everything together cohesively.
So maybe looking at launching for 2026.
Yes, exactly. With
Great,
the growth that we talked about earlier, it just makes sense.
You mentioned the global and then also the Caribbean market. I'm sure there's different areas around the globe that are growing quickly.
Yes, very definitely. There's I guess you would call them the old standards are still doing very well. And by that, I typically mean European travel. But cruise travel is an example of something that's really grown explosively. I was thinking when I was preparing for our talk, one of the things, for example, that's even changed across these 20 years. Most people know the brand Viking, a cruise line, and they had less than 30 ships 20 years ago. They now have a fleet that's over 60. So these organizations are taking advantage of the tremendous growth in travel overall, of course, cruise specifically when I speak about Viking. And so with a lot of new entities and a lot of new players, including a lot of new travel advisors, interestingly, we felt that this is a great opportunity to showcase the brands, but also connect more suppliers and buyers across the globe.
So even despite the internet and people being able to do things on their own, they're still seeking, there's been growth on the travel advisor side.
Yes, interestingly enough, it's especially important in the luxury travel side. more and more what we call those high net worth individual consumers of travel, they are prioritizing travel. I was listening to a presentation from Tony Capuano, CEO of Marriott, the other day, and he was pointing out that those individuals were saying that with their discretionary dollars, their number one choice in how to spend those discretionary dollars is travel. And so obviously Marriott is happy to hear that, but so are we. And more of those people, what's precious to them? They have a lot of money. What's precious to them? Time. So they're looking at a knowledgeable travel advisor to help them sort through all the opportunities, because to your point, people are going to more far-flung areas of the globe. 20 years ago, everybody wasn't traveling to Laos or Vietnam or the Seychelles or some of these areas that are what we in the United States might call more far-flung. But now that people are, there are so many choices. You could spend all day on the internet looking at the opportunities, the packages, the experiences. So why not reach out to that specialist who has the knowledge and say, hey, we're thinking we want to do this. We're in your hands. Make some suggestions for us. And so the travel advisor community is actually doing very well compared to the time way back when commissions were actually cut out of the universe for airline tickets from travel advisors many years ago. Just over really 20 years ago is when it happened, 2003. And so at that point, a lot of people were predicting the death of travel agents because a lot of their business was focused on airline tickets. Now their business is focused on building those experiences, those unique adventures, not just, oh, let me buy you a ticket from your home to Chicago and back.
With luxury travel expected to grow, right now, the numbers that you shared with us were like 3% compounded annual growth rate through 2029. Talk about the refreshed, refined, and luxurious look and feel of strategically positioning your events and media properties to really capture this market.
Yes, that was one of the functions of the rebrand. We think we have developed a look that's sleek as well as unified, but also that entire look across the portfolio should help us build trust, strengthen collaboration across all of the ecosystem. We often, at a live event, for example, might hear, oh, I didn't know you also did Ultra Summit, when I would be at, let's say, for example, our CMITE event. And so we did feel it was important that we have this clean, fresh look to help position ourselves in the luxury space, but also as a unified brand.
To show the depth and of your portfolio as well, like you were just saying.
Exactly. And I've only touched on a few of them. We have some other brands, of course, within the portfolio, but the idea was to unify all of them with this new look. And I think the team did a really good job. The creative team, I have to give the marks there. That's not my specialty, that's theirs.
We will include links to your portfolio so people can take a look at that sleek, unified design as well. I wanted to ask you about a luxury travel advisor. It's celebrating its 20th anniversary. We mentioned this a little bit earlier, but how has the luxury travel landscape evolved over those 2 decades? And tell us about that.
I think one of the biggest evolutions is the importance of the travel advisor. So I'm very pleased that we do have a publication that helps educate them, shares knowledge about what's new and what's being renovated, what's changed around the universe. I do think the travel advisor is really key in this luxury travel market. And so for that reason, I'm happy that we're well positioned there. And the globalization of travel, the idea of these digital nomads, people are looking more and more for areas where they can go and also be very authentic. And so you'll find people who are looking more, for example, lovely villas. It's one thing, let's say that you're a traveler or you're a consumer in the luxury space and you think to yourself, oh, I'd like to go on a luxury trip. You can pick 4 seasons and be pretty sure that you've picked a property that's luxury and going to be well serviced. For example, But now let's say you want to really spend a month in a destination and you want to stay at a villa, you want to live like a local, admitted a well-off local. And so how do you find those villas? And so we'll connect, for example, there's an organization called Villas of Distinction. So we'll be connecting, for example, travel advisors with Villas of Distinction so that they have an opportunity to say, oh, good, this is an 8-bedroom villa with 7 baths, private butler, etc. And I know Villas of Distinction has vetted it. And we're trying to be part of that ecosystem, let's say, where we're trying to help connect those travel advisors to the global community, everything from small private seaplanes or private jets to villas, entities like this that maybe are a bit harder for a travel advisor to find because as much as they, of course, travel a lot so that they can experience what they're selling, they cannot travel 365 days a year and still accomplish their business. I admit I'm a lover of the travel community, and I do firmly believe that travel educates us. And whether it be I travel within the United States, perhaps maybe the Cajun region of Louisiana, or whether I travel outside the United States to Bolivia, I'm able to experience things differently from a different point of view. And I think it's really educational for people. And you start thinking to yourself, in that one basic way, we're all alike. And you find that when you travel with people and you get to know them. So these authentic experiences are a big part, I think, of what's driving travel now, as opposed to maybe how people traveled, I guess I would say back in the 1980s. I realize that's more than 20 years ago. But so we're talking mostly about changes in the last 20 years. But if you go 20, 30 years, you'll really see massive changes.
Yeah.
I read a statistic the other day
Yeah.
that we've gone from the United States, we've gone from less than 25% of adults owning a passport. I don't know if owning is the right word, but having a
Yeah.
passport, just over 50% that we finally passed that mark. And so that in itself is a great sign because presumably people that are obtaining passports are planning international travel. And it's great for, of course, the market that I'm in. But I also think just in general, it's great for knowing your fellow man better.
I couldn't agree more. Yes, it's
Yeah.
a very educational way, and I definitely support it with like my own children to open their eyes to the world and all that we have here to be appreciative for. I wanted to ask you, so trade shows are increasingly focused on creating year-round engagement, right? So how does the rebranding effort support a more continuous relationship with your audience beyond just the event days?
As part of the rebrand, although it hadn't been planned this way, we do have a new content director, Cameron Sperance. He comes to us from the Points Guy and some other background, which I'm sure your readers can find on our website. And he really is bringing a fresh approach to the content. And for example, we've launched several activities such as virtual events. We have a series that is called Selling Luxury, which is for our travel advisor community. And the idea is, of course, helping them sell more in the luxury market. So we provide that editorial content, and then there'll often be suppliers who will tell them about new destinations or renovations. And taking that step for new content in terms of a new approach, we've also decided as part of that to develop some original research. So that's what another area that Cameron is working on in terms of bringing forth our content. And so we've created some kind of insider luxury reports, let's say, that we're developing and sharing with our community. And we plan to continue to evolve that as we go forward. We recently completed a campaign for the most Instagrammable hotel and received literally tens of thousands of people participating in the event. It was structured like the Sweet 16 contest that takes place in basketball, where there were different fields that narrowed down as people voted into it. And it made it a fun opportunity for the community to be able to engage with the brands and with our brand. But it also helped raise the profile of a number of hotels around the globe.
I love that idea. Thanks for sharing that. That's really interesting. So Questex continues to see the value in investing in content to help the trade shows have a year-round engagement focus. I think like before COVID, there might have been a shift away from some of the publication type of things, right? And now I feel some of the major media companies and trade show organizers are again realizing the value and investing in content for their event brands to align with.
I
Do you
think
agree?
that's exactly true. Having worked across my career for a number of large and small trade shows that were often held once a year, sometimes semi-annually, typically you're very around that community for that week or so, maybe the week prior, and then you kind of drop off the radar. And so this is a way for us with our Luxury Travel Advisor brand, which is print publication as well as website, as well as newsletters, to stay in the minds of our audience that does attend, for example, our Ultra Summit. We want to be just not that one-time hit in the year when they're with us face to face, which we greatly value, but we also know that giving them year-round content through these other sources is going to strengthen their sense of connection with us and helps us with our place in the community.
The thought leadership aspect of it too, right?
Yes, very
Yeah.
definitely.
And you can even develop leads, right, from it on the exhibitor side and sponsor side, as well as on the travel advisor side that way too.
Definitely. I've been very pleasantly surprised at the success of our virtual events. We're typically bringing in 1,000 registrants, 200, 300, 400 even live participants, and the engagement is really strong. And one of the things I like about the engagement with the sponsors is how really specific the travel advisor community will ask questions of them that shows they're really interested and they're really thinking about maybe a customer in the back of their head, a potential client, when they say things like, now I didn't realize that was a second island in your destination. How would a person who perhaps use a wheelchair get from this island to that island? Do they have to go in a small boat? Very specific questions that I've heard that makes me think they're very engaged in these virtual events. And so we've been holding them monthly, so that obviously continues the engagement throughout the year.
That's great to know that you're having success with the virtual event side in this particular market. Okay, I just have a couple more questions for you. How are you measuring success for the rebrand? Will it be like exhibitor attendee satisfaction? How do you determine whether it's a success or not?
I think one of the ways we'll be measuring success is how many times do I stop hearing, we didn't know you also had this? Because I do hear that, or I have heard that, I guess I would say, over the many years that I've been here. And of course, I find myself surprised because I know we have all of these brands, of course, and I find myself frustrated. And the very fact that now when they're seeing these brands together and we're also sharing content across them, a really good example there is the company's hospitality investor brand. There's a lot that happens in investment and hotel development around the world that actually is of interest to those who own a luxury travel agency. Boy, is that going to be the next big thing discussion. And they know that a lot of these very large investors do very good research before they're going to put tens of millions of dollars into a project. And so they know this research has been done. And sharing content across the platforms, as we do that, and of course we can measure the readership, the eyeballs, etc. So as we're doing that across the brands, across our Travel Agent Central, say, and our Meeting Spotlight and Luxury Travel Advisor, we have been sharing some of the content and we can see, are they engaged with this story or are they only focused on the stories that originated within that particular brand? So I think looking at, I hate to use the word eyeballs, but the visitors, the eyeballs across the web platforms and newsletters and seeing where the people are engaged. Number one, we can see if some of our cross content is reverberating with the audience. And then number two, as I said, I really would like people to stop saying to me, so I didn't even know you ran CMITE. I only knew about GMITE, that kind of a thing.
So awareness about all the brands, yeah, that you offer. And I
Exactly.
can see, yeah, I can see it can be
Exactly.
frustrating. And somebody who works in it and lives and breathes it every single day. And one fun final question for you. Where is the most far-flung destination that you personally have been to?
Oh, that's so funny. Let's see. I guess that would have to be when I went to Malaysia. If I think back to the most far flung from my position here in the New York metro area, and found it fascinating, of course, and a completely different universe and interesting people. I went into the plantation where they had the rubber trees and watching the sap come down and this kind of a thing. And when that was a trip where it was joined with Singapore, so was able to spend a good deal of time in both of the destinations there. And I really enjoyed it. And of course, it just whet my appetite for more.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for taking a few minutes of your time today to share with our audience your experience during this rebrand.
Thank you so much, Danica. We're very excited about it. So I appreciate your helping us with the spotlight.
You're welcome. So for TSNN, I'm Danica Tormohlen.